She made a choice that cost her everything. 3 children taken from her by law, forbidden from attending their weddings, barred from their funerals. The courts declared her unfit, and for the rest of her life she could see them only in secret, for 24 hours at a time, always outside the borders where she was exiled. And the child she chose to keep, the one she raised openly, defying every rule of royal society. He died at 12 years old. She commissioned a marble statue for his grave, a blessing Christ with outstretched hands. It was all she could do. No one at court would acknowledge his existence, even in death. This is the story of Princess Marianne of the Netherlands, a woman who dared to choose personal happiness over royal duty and discovered that the price of freedom was losing everyone she loved. When we think of royal women who defied convention, we often picture dramatic scandals or public rebellions. But Princess Marianne's story is different. It's quieter, more insidious, and perhaps because of that, more devastating. Born Wilhelmina Frederica Louise Charlotte Marianne on May 9, 1810, she entered the world not in a palace, but in exile. Her father, Prince William of Orange-Nassau, had fled the Netherlands as Napoleon conquered Europe. Her mother was Princess Wilhelmina of Prussia, sister to the Prussian king. By the time Marianne was 5 years old, her father had been crowned King William I of the United Kingdom of the Netherlands and Belgium. She was now a princess of a newly restored Protestant kingdom. But her childhood was marked by emotional distance, raised by a strict governess, never quite mastering any language fluently, speaking a mixture of German and French with little Dutch. This peculiar upbringing created a contradiction that would define her entire life, a desperate hunger for authenticity paired with fierce independence. And it was this very independence that would eventually destroy her. The wedding gifts. On September 14, 1830, 20-year-old Marianne married her first cousin, Prince Albert of Prussia, in the Noordeinde Palace in The Hague. It was a dynastic marriage, designed to cement ties between the House of Orange-Nassau and the Prussian Hohenzollern dynasty. Albert was 31, a career military officer trained in Prussian discipline and hierarchy, the youngest brother of the future Kaiser Wilhelm I. For Marianne, this wasn't even her first engagement. 2 years earlier, she had been betrothed to Gustav, the former Crown Prince of Sweden, a match marked by genuine affection. But her father, ever the political calculator, broke that engagement. 18 months later, he arranged her marriage to Albert instead. There was no choice. There was only obedience to dynastic necessity. But the wedding gifts told a different story. They revealed exactly what was expected of her. King William I commissioned a monumental toilet service for his daughter. Between 1828 and 1829, he engaged the finest artisans in the southern Netherlands to create something extraordinary. The centerpiece was a mirror, 87 centimeters tall, 118 centimeters wide, weighing 58.3 kilograms of gilt-silver. The mirror was supported on either side by 2 female figures carved in high relief, their bodies idealized, their drapery flowing in the Empire style. Each figure held the mirror with one hand while grasping a floral garland with the other. These weren't just decorative elements, they were a message. The women existed only to hold the mirror steady. They had no purpose beyond their function. They were beautiful, yes, but they were completely subordinate to what they supported. And what did that mirror reflect? Not Marianne's true self, but the woman she was supposed to be. The toilet service also included a jewelry casket, several boxes for cosmetic materials, containers for beauty patches, brushes for wigs. The entire ensemble was designed to be displayed on a specially commissioned table of gilt bronze with a marble top. It cost an astronomical sum, a public declaration of royal expenditure and paternal love. But the gift also contained an implicit threat. This is what you are. This is what you will do. This is the circumference of your world, your toilet, your appearance, your reflection. Stay within it. King William I also commissioned a substantial pearl and diamond tiara featuring large pear-shaped pearls suspended from a diamond setting. The city of Amsterdam commissioned a monumental 94-piece silver dinner set, costing 18,837 guilders, the equivalent of several years' household expenses for a wealthy family. Every piece of jewelry, every object, spoke the same language. You are princess. You are dutiful. You are on display. You belong to a dynasty, not to yourself. The marriage unravels. For the first 10 years, Marianne performed her role with apparent competence. She bore children, Charlotte in 1831, a stillborn son in 1832, Albert in 1837, Elizabeth in 1840, who died within months, and Alexandrine in 1842. She maintained her household. She attended court. She was, by all outward measure, the successful royal bride her toilet service proclaimed she should be. But beneath the surface, something was breaking. Prince Albert was a man of the Prussian military tradition, trained in hierarchy, accustomed to command, and prone to what the historical records delicately call extramarital adventures. Marianne, by contrast, was described as sensitive, deeply religious, artistically and socially interested. The incompatibility was fundamental and irreconcilable. In 1845, after nearly 15 years of marriage, Marianne discovered that her husband had begun a love affair with a woman who worked in her own household, Rosalie von Rauch, her lady-in-waiting and the daughter of Prussian General and Minister of War Gustav von Rauch. The betrayal was not private, it was structural. Albert was openly conducting an affair with a woman who lived in proximity to his wife, who served at his wife's side. Marianne refused to accept this in silence. She refused to do what was expected at the time, to keep quiet for the sake of form, to pretend, to withdraw into dignified complicity. Instead, she left him. In 1845, Princess Marianne separated from Prince Albert and moved to Voorburg, a town in South Holland. She asked for a divorce. Neither the Prussian court nor the Dutch court would grant one. For 4 years, from 1845 to 1849, she attempted reconciliation, hoping Albert would end the affair. He refused. She remained separated, living independently in legal limbo. The radical choice. Then, in 1848, Marianne did something that shattered every convention that constrained her. She took a lover. His name was Johannes van Rossum. He was her personal coachman. He was already married to another woman. He was of inferior social rank. The choice was not impulsive. The sources suggest it was deliberate, conscious, and made with full understanding of its consequences. Marianne purchased the Buitenplaats Rusthof estate in Voorburg on March 7, 1848, and settled there openly with Van Rossum. She did not hide. She did not pretend. She did not follow the aristocratic convention of maintaining a discreet affair that no one would publicly acknowledge. Instead, she lived openly with a man, not her husband, crossed the class boundary that royalty were never supposed to cross, and declared through her actions that her personal happiness mattered more than her social position. When it was discovered that she was expecting Van Rossum's child, both courts finally capitulated. The only way to prevent an even greater scandal, a princess bearing an illegitimate child while still technically married, was to grant the divorce that Marianne and Albert had been seeking for years. On March 28, 1849, the marriage was officially dissolved. On October 30, 1849, during a journey to Sicily, Marianne gave birth to a son, Johannes Wilhelm von Reinhardtshausen. The birth was a catastrophe in the eyes of royal Europe. The courts of The Hague and Berlin broke off all contact with her immediately. The price of freedom. In the Kingdom of Prussia, an official exile decree was issued that allowed her to remain on Prussian soil for only 24 hours at a time. She was banished from the court where she had lived as a princess for 19 years. But the cruelest punishment was yet to come. She was separated from her 3 surviving children from her first marriage, Charlotte, Albert, and Alexandrine. Their guardianship was transferred to their father and, in effect, to Queen Elizabeth of Prussia. She was barred from attending her own children's weddings, from witnessing the births of her grandchildren, from participating in any family celebration. Under the laws of the time, Marianne had no legal claim to them. The Dutch Civil Code and Prussian family law gave all parental authority to the father. As a separated woman who had taken a lover, she was deemed morally unfit for guardianship. For the rest of her life, Marianne was permitted to see her children only outside of Prussia or during carefully controlled 24-hour visits. She could not attend Charlotte's wedding in 1850, though she gave her daughter the Villa Carlotta on Lake Como as a wedding gift, a gesture of love conducted at a distance. When Charlotte died in childbirth in 1855, Marianne was not permitted to attend her funeral. And then there was the death of her illegitimate son, Johannes Wilhelm. The boy whom she had chosen to raise openly, whose existence had cost her everything, he died on December 12, 1861, at only 12 years old. He did not live to be an adult. Marianne commissioned a Carrara marble statue by the sculptor Johann Heinrich Stover for his grave, a work of blessing Christ based on Thorwaldsen's design. The boy's death was a private tragedy that no one at court would ever acknowledge. Marianne's grief had no sanctioned expression within the world she had been born into. The objects endure. The jewellery and objects commissioned for Princess Marianne's wedding were never meant to leave the domestic sphere. They were meant to be used. The mirror consulted during her morning toilet, the jewellery box holding the pieces she wore, the silver ornaments displayed in her reception rooms. They were meant to be seen only by those allowed into the intimate spaces of royal life: her husband, her ladies-in-waiting, perhaps the children. Yet because they were objects of intrinsic value, made from precious materials by master artisans, they survived. They were not destroyed or dispersed. The toilet mirror entered the Rijksmuseum's collection and can be viewed today. The jewellery casket is held in the Hetlu Palace Museum in Apeldoorn. The pearl tiara was documented in historical records. The silver dinner set from Amsterdam was preserved through institutional channels. The survival of these objects is poignant precisely because it testifies to what was supposed to be permanent about Marianne's identity: her role as dutiful princess, ornamental wife, mother confined to the domestic sphere. The objects proclaim her subordination and her acceptance of it. Yet Marianne herself rejected that identity entirely. The mirror, with its classical female figures holding it steady, speaks to the role she was supposed to play: a beautiful frame for the reflection of others' desires and expectations. The jewellery casket speaks to enclosure, to the containment of a woman's most precious possessions in lockable space. The tiara speaks to ceremony and public display under strict protocol. These objects are exquisite, but they are instruments of confinement. By the time these objects entered museum collections in the late 20th century, Marianne had been dead for over a century. The material culture of her royal role had been preserved as art. But the woman who rejected that role had been nearly forgotten. The life after. Marianne lived for more than 30 years after her exile began in 1849. She travelled through Europe and the Orient. She settled in Rome and created a salon of artistic patronage. She purchased the Villa Celimontana on the Caelian Hill and filled it with paintings by Dutch artists. She then established herself in Schloss Reinhardtshausen, a castle deliberately positioned just inside the Grand Duchy of Nassau, within sight of the Prussian border but outside its jurisdiction, so that she could receive visits from her children without violating the exile decree. In her final decades, Marianne engaged in extensive philanthropy. She financed churches, supported orphanages and hospitals, funded schools, and became deeply beloved by the local populations of the Rheingau region and Silesia. She lived openly with Johannes van Rossum until his death in 1873, and then survived him by a decade, dying at Schloss Reinhardtshausen on May 29, 1883, 20 days after her 73rd birthday. But this later life, productive, engaged, generous, was largely written out of the royal narrative. Marianne's story became a cautionary tale about the dangers of female autonomy, not a testament to a woman's capacity to build a meaningful life outside the constraints of court. Her reputation was managed through silence and omission. Her name appeared in genealogies, but her story was not told. Princess Marianne of the Netherlands died in obscurity, living in a castle that was not her birthright, separated from most of her legitimate family, with her illegitimate son long dead. She never saw her daughter Charlotte again after that young woman's marriage. She was never permitted to attend a family wedding or celebration. Her reputation in court circles was one of shame and transgression. Yet when we examine what she actually did, we find something very different from scandal. She insisted on a personal life in a world that demanded moral obedience. She chose love over duty. She refused to hide her son. She established philanthropic works that benefited thousands. She created a life that was, by any measure outside the court's judgment, genuinely meaningful. The toilet mirror in the Rijksmuseum is not an object of beauty that speaks to Marianne's acceptance of her role. It is an object that testifies to the power arrayed against her, the best artisans, the most precious materials, the greatest effort, all mobilized to create a woman who would remain within her place. And the fact that she rejected that place entirely gives the mirror a different meaning. It becomes evidence of her resistance, not her submission. Marianne was punished not for scandal, but for insisting on a personal life in a world that demanded moral obedience from royal women. Her jewelry survives in museums. Her reputation was destroyed. Yet her life, examined clearly and without the moralizing judgment of her age, reveals a woman of extraordinary courage, not because she was noble or perfect, but because she chose authenticity over obedience, even knowing the cost. The jewels endure. The woman lives on in those objects, not as the dutiful princess they were meant to create, but as the woman who rejected them. What strikes you most about Princess Marianne's story? Was her choice worth the price she paid? And what does it say about the women who came before us, whose stories were deliberately erased? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please give this video a like. It helps more people discover these forgotten women of history. And subscribe to the channel because there are so many more stories like this waiting to be told. Stories of women who dared to choose themselves, even when the world demanded their silence. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.